හරිම සුමුදුයි.
Tonight on First at 9. Election bond. President Ranil Wickremesinghe provides assurance on holding elections next year. Stability ability. Foreign Minister highlights the need for a stable region with a satisfactory partnership with India. Power upgrade. New Sri Lanka Electricity Bill gazetted. A National Electricity Advisory Council for Electricity Policy Formulation. Smart grants. Asian Development Bank grants $200 million concessionary financing to strengthen Sri Lanka's financial sector.
ඔබේ විශ්වාසය දෙනු සෙන්සුරයින් දැන් ළඟමැති ෆාමසියෙන් ලබාගත හැක.
From AdaDerana, this is AdaDerana First at 9. Live from Studio 24 in Colombo.
Good evening and a warm welcome to you to AdaDerana's English News, First at 9 this Friday. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Let's take a look at our news for the evening, starting with our top story right now. As Sri Lanka sets its sights towards a new and improved economy, the government today gazetted the Sri Lanka Electricity Draft Bill, which aims to revolutionize the country's electricity sector through several unprecedented reforms. Among the new reforms proposed is the government's plan to improve the performance of the electricity industry in Sri Lanka through independent and accountable corporate entities. The bill also proposes the establishment of a National Electricity Advisory Council, which will be responsible for advising the subject minister on matters relating to the electricity industry and further formulation of the national electricity policy.
The new Sri Lanka Electricity Draft Bill aims to provide the performance of the country's electricity industry by refining electricity generation, transmission, distribution, trade, supply and procurement of electricity within Sri Lanka. Further, the bill aims to create an economically viable, well-coordinated, efficient economic system of electricity supply throughout the nation at all times via transparent policies. The bill also aims to facilitate the establishment of the independent and accountable corporate entities for the efficient supply of electricity throughout the country. Further, the bill intends to promote and facilitate the establishment and functioning of the wholesale electricity market while also intending to promote competition in electricity generation, transmission, distribution, trade, supply and procurement. These improvements are aimed at ensuring Sri Lanka's energy security and reliability wherever possible. The bill further intends to ensure that all reasonable demands for electricity, including future requirements for electricity, are met while ensuring efficient use of electricity supply to all premises. The Sri Lanka Electricity Draft Bill aims to protect the public from dangers arising from generation, transmission, distribution, trade, supply and procurement of electricity through improved reliability and the quality of electricity services. It also aims to identify the principles and methodologies to be followed in the determination of tariffs. Under the new draft bill, a National Electricity Advisory Council will be set up and its members will be responsible for advising the minister on matters relating to the electricity industry and concerning the formulation of the national electricity policy. The National Electricity Advisory Council will advise the minister on the modalities relating to the formulation of proposals and plans for the development of the electricity industry, including the establishment of competitive electricity markets and interconnections with regional markets through the reform process to ensure its successful implementation. The Council will also advise the subject minister on matters related to the preparation of the long-term power system development plan in terms of the national electricity policy under the provisions of this bill, including additions to the generation and transmission capacity and the ability of private sector investors to provide electricity generation capacity based on a competitive tariff structure. Further, the Council will be responsible for providing advice on matters relating to the formulation and methodology to be adhered to in fixing the tariffs in terms of the national tariff policy, while ensuring a level of financial sustainability and a reasonable return on investment of the regulated entities. Under the new bill, the minister, with the approval of the Cabinet of Ministers, can appoint 5 people as members of the Council. Out of the 5 members, the minister can appoint a suitable member as the chairperson. The members appointed will be persons with knowledge of fields including electrical engineering, finance and economics, energy transition, energy efficiency, renewable energy, and climate financing.
The Asian Development Bank today approved a $200 million concessional loan for Sri Lanka to help stabilize the country's finance sector. ADB Country Director for Sri Lanka, Takafumi Kadono, said that the overarching development objective of its financial sector stability and reforms program for Sri Lanka, under which the concessionary loan was approved, is fully aligned with Sri Lanka's strategy for ensuring the stability of the finance sector. It's a mouthful. While ensuring that banks are well positioned for eventual recovery. He highlighted that the ADB expects the establishment of a stable financial ecosystem in Sri Lanka, providing access to affordable finances for businesses in various sectors of the economy.
The Asian Development Bank approved a $200 million concessional loan to the Sri Lankan government to help stabilize the country's financial sector. In a statement, the ADB said their financial sector stability and reforms program for Sri Lanka comprises two sub-programs of $200 million each to properly sequence reforms and ensure the needed flexibility while implementing multi-year policy reforms in a crisis period. The ADB stated that Sub-Program 1 targets short-term stabilization and crisis management measures which were implemented in 2023, while Sub-Program 2 is planned to be implemented in 2024 and focuses on structural reforms and long-term actions to restore growth in the banking sector. ADB noted that the program will help strengthen the stability and governance of the country's banking sector, improve the banking sector's asset quality, and deepen sustainable and inclusive finance, particularly for women-led micro, small, and medium-sized enterprises. According to ADB's country director for Sri Lanka, Takafumi Kadono, the program's overarching development objective fully aligns with the country's strategy of maintaining finance sector stability while ensuring that banks are well positioned for eventual recovery. He highlighted that the expected development outcome is a stable financial system, providing access to affordable finance for businesses in various sectors of the economy. The ADB also stated that the program is a follow-on assistance from ADB's crisis response under the special policy-based loan that was approved for Sri Lanka in May 2023 and added that it is aligned with the fourth pillar of the IMF's extended fund facility provided to Sri Lanka to help the country regain financial stability. The ADB noted that in designing the Sub-Program 1 loan, the ADB has maintained close coordination and collaboration with the IMF to design targeted regulatory reforms for the banking sector, including the asset quality review, and with the World Bank on strengthening the deposit insurance scheme. The loan is accompanied by a $1 million grant from the ADB's Technical Assistance Special Fund to provide advisory, knowledge, and institutional capacity building for Sri Lanka's Ministry of Finance and the Central Bank of Sri Lanka.
President Ranil Wickremesinghe says that Sri Lanka will be able to start building a new country and a new economy following an announcement expected from the Official Creditor Committee that Sri Lanka's debt is at a manageable level. The Official Creditor Committee, which includes India, Japan and France, is scheduled to meet on the 12th of December. During a meeting with a Buddhist delegation and the Global Tamil Forum, the President further added that elections earmarked for next year will pave the way for constitutional reforms in Sri Lanka.
Representatives of the Buddhist clergy, including Deputy Chief Prelate of the Amagahapitiya sect of the Amarapura chapter, Venerable Dr. Madhampagama Asajithisatera, and Chief Prelate of Northern and Eastern Provinces of Siam sect of the Malbatha chapter, Venerable Kithalagama Hemasarathera, and members of the Global Tamil Forum called on President Ranil Wickremesinghe and held discussions last evening. During discussions, the Joint Himalayan Declaration, a collaborative effort between the Global Tamil Forum and the Buddhist delegation, which advocates for a pluralistic Sri Lanka that actively promotes the well-being of all its communities, was presented to the head of state.
දැන් එන දෙසැම්බර් 12 වෙනිදා OCC Official Creditors Committee රැස් වුණාම අපිට ණය දරාගත හැකි ණයක් තියෙනවා කියලා ප්‍රකාශ කරාම ඉතුරු වෙන්නේ පුද්ගලික ණයකරුවන් සමග සාකච්ඡා කරන්න පමණයි. එතනදී අපිට අවස්ථාව වෙනවා නව රටක් හදන්න, නව ආර්ථිකයක් හදන්න. We can't run with the old model anymore. So unless we have unity and stability, you can't have economy. That's the first part. So politically, we have to a large extent been, the questions have been the ethnic issue and the economic issue, how much the government should control. Now both has been resolved by events. My idea is to hold elections for the presidency next year, as said in the constitution, followed by parliamentary elections and then followed by provincial council elections. I think these elections would then enable us to look at amending or drafting a new constitution which puts all this into place. So the mandate should be there, and from now we must prepare our grounds as to what should be done. The constitution provides for devolution of power while sovereignty is all, which is correct because in my view we are all Sri Lankans, and whatever other divisions are, when it comes to cricket again we become Sri Lankan. Other than that, we have to look at ourselves, but at the same time I don't think we need to have everything handled by Colombo. What we can give to the people and what we can can release from the government, we must release. With Tamils representing North and the East, we've had a round of discussions. I'm calling them up, meeting them again on the 13th. I feel we are making progress on all issues.
In this declaration, we have kind of captured the key issues that face Sri Lanka as a framework. What we plan to do is to create national conversation, national discussion between people to people at all levels without party affiliation. So to make it very clear and be transparent, we have also seek meetings with the party leaders in addition to meeting all religious groups when we are here.
My support is there for your venture. First, it's good that you're going in and meeting with all the political party leaders. I think that's a dialogue that you all have to keep up. And outside the political parties, there will be other organizations also which want to be heard. I think you should do that. As far as I am concerned, the support is there. Only I have to decide what is the appropriate time to make a statement. It may be better for you all first to go and speak to them and let us get this process so by January or February we can have something concrete.
Minister of Foreign Affairs, President's Counsel Ali Sabri says that Sri Lanka is open for business with any country and added that the government will not allow the island nation to be used as a foreign military base for any country despite the power flex of that said country. Addressing a media briefing today, Sabri confirmed that Sri Lanka strives to maintain a stable atmosphere in the Indian Ocean region while being sensitive to the legitimate security concerns of India.
Though we are following these non-aligned policies, sometimes Sri Lanka is under pressure from some countries. Like China can't invest in the north or east, or China doesn't want India to invest in Hambantota. There are informal pressure is there. How are you handling those?
I see this as an opportunity because our location is so critical. There is an opportunity. Opportunities come with challenges. So I would say that to be fair by both these countries, none of them have told us that you don't need to work with the others. In fact, they have personally, foreign minister level with whom I coordinate with them, they have specifically have told them they would like, because no one country can bail out or help Sri Lanka to come out of it, they welcome each other. Of course, subject to their security concerns. Every country has that. So we have told that any legitimate security concerns of India, we will take into consideration in deciding whatever the project. We don't want an unstable region, an unsatisfied neighbor, because our relationship with India is very, very important. And we see with that a lot of opportunities coming in. I thought all in all we have handled well. But yes, challenges are there. So a small country like us will always have that challenges. So we have to meet those challenges as and when it comes. But I'm glad our friends have understood and we have made it very clear. We are open to do business with everyone. Our relationship, most of these countries are basically commercial. We have also a very clear caveat, that is, we will never ever allow this country to be used as a foreign military base. We will not allow that, however powerful that country is.
The government has initiated efforts to establish an independent commission for truth, unity and reconciliation. The commission is expected to ensure and strengthen national unity, peace, the rule of law, coexistence, equality, tolerance, respect for diversity and reconciliation among Sri Lankans.
In May this year, the Cabinet of Ministers approved the establishment of a Truth and Reconciliation mechanism in Sri Lanka, thereby setting up an independent commission for truth, unity and reconciliation. The proposed commission will be established through an Act of Parliament. The President's office said that the legislation empowering the Commission is currently in the drafting process as a concept paper, which will be used to prepare the final draft of the bill and will be available for public comment soon. The President's office in a statement today added that establishing the truth regarding the post-conflict grievances of Sri Lankan citizens, facilitating reconciliation, reparation and sustainable peace are key objectives of the process. The Commission aims to ensure and strengthen national unity, peace, the rule of law, coexistence, equality, tolerance, respect for diversity and reconciliation among the people of Sri Lanka. This initiative extends to preventing any recurrence of disharmony and future conflict between the multi-ethnic and diverse communities. The Commission is also expected to review, consider and facilitate the implementation of recommendations made by past commissions related to Sri Lanka's post-conflict reconciliation efforts, including recommendations of the Lessons Learned and Reconciliation Commission. Pending the enactment of the proposed new law, the government has initiated the establishment of an interim body, the Interim Secretariat for Truth and Reconciliation Mechanism, which will work towards building the necessary legal and policy framework, operational procedures and guidelines for the Commission. The President's office noted that the Interim Secretariat will lay the foundation for a homegrown solution for truth, reconciliation and national unity.
Following recent inclement weather, as apparent by the heavy rains, rainfall above 75 millimeters is expected to fall in several areas across the island over the course of the day tomorrow. This forecast was made by Sri Lanka's Meteorological Department, which also noted that the highest rainfall during the past 24 hours was reported from the Badula district at 150.6 millimeters. Due to heavy rainfall, a landslide was reported from the Anilkanda area along the Ratnapura-Deniaya A17 route. The Road Development Authority took measures to open the road for the uninhibited flow of traffic by the evening. Meanwhile, a mound of earth collapsed onto the road in the Pinnavala area on the Balangoda-Hatton Road. Similarly, the Hatton-Colombo A7 main road was completely blocked as a mound of earth and a tree collapsed in Diagala. Many school children, as well as those heading to work, were inconvenienced due to the incident. However, the road was opened for traffic by the evening. Moving on to union news, the United Postal Trade Unions Front staged a protest near the Parliament roundabout in demand of an allowance of an additional 20,000 rupees for state employees. They were also protesting the commercialization of the Kandy and Nuwara post offices. A 48-hour strike is scheduled to be launched starting Sunday.
A protest action organised by the United Postal Trade Unions Front convened near the Parliament roundabout this morning. The protest was staged over several concerns, including a controversial plan by the government to release the colonial-era buildings of the Kandy and Nuwara post offices for investment. Meanwhile, the protesters also demanded an allowance of 20,000 rupees for government employees from January 2024. Demonstrators engaged in the protest while the budget proposals related to the Ministry of Mass Media were debated in Parliament today. Thereafter, a tense situation erupted between the protesters and the police.
ජාතික සම්පත් විකුණන් කරන වගන්ති මේ අයවැයට යොමු කරලා විකුණන් කරන ආර්ථික ප්‍රතිපත්තියට නෛතික බලයක් අයවැය හරහා ලබා දෙන්නම් ජනාධිපතිවරයා ක්‍රියා කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒ වගේම තැපැල් පරිපාලනයට අපි කියනවා සෙල්ලම් කරන්න ලෑස්ති වෙන්න එපා තමන්ගේ සේවකයන් සමග. තැපැල් සේවකයෝ විදිහට අපි එළඹෙන 10 වෙනිදා හවස 4 ඉඳලා පැය 48ක වැඩ වර්ජනයක් ක්‍රියාත්මක කරනවා. අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා වහාම මේවට උත්තර දෙයි කියලා.
Welcome back. President Ranil Wickremesinghe advised the leaders of the plantation companies to engage in a collective agreement concerning the wage hike for plantation workers, aiming for a minimum of 1,700 rupees per their request. During a meeting with the regional plantation companies, they were urged to reach a consensus on the increased wage amount before the 31st of December.
A meeting with the heads of plantation companies was held this morning under the patronage of President Ranil Wickremesinghe.
2022 and 2020, we've gone through 2023. It has been tough for everyone. So we've given some form of a pay increase or allowance to the government sector. Private sector outside plantations have also received increases. It is the plantation sector. I don't think there's full agreement there, otherwise they won't come to us. So whatever agreement we have, we must come to it quickly without there being trade union action. Secondly, whether we like it or not, we can't put off giving a pay increase after these 2 hard years. I mean, basically we can't give them what they want in any sector, but some payment has to be made. So these are the minimum limits that they have been talking of. So they are at about 1,700. If you have another way of giving them money or equivalent of that, as you said, you're paying the people who are working, best is that we take it up and talk it over, but we have to conclude something. Otherwise, by January, you will be having problems in the estates. You might as well give something now and keep control of it. We can't have a million plantation people without a single inch of land. We are asking for problems. They say, give us the land and we will find the money and build the house. Some instances, we may also have to acquire some land in the outskirts of cities so that we can shift some of them into places like Talwakale and put up storied buildings. So for the future, we have to look at towns like Talwakale, Lindul, others, and if necessary, take some land over from there that we can go into high-rise, medium-rise buildings. The next is that we will be giving out land for commercial agriculture. We are trying to identify about another 200,000. Some of it will come in the Mahavali area. We will look for export crops. We have to become a big agriculture so not only tea.
Moving on to business news, the Excise Department has amended the operating hours of liquor stores and other liquor licensed establishments with effect from the 9th of December. Accordingly, foreign liquor retail shops will now be open from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. Meanwhile, Tourist Board approved hotels with FL7 and FL8 liquor licenses and hotels with 3 stars and above can now operate from 10 a.m. to 2 a.m. All other hotels have been permitted to sell liquor between 10 a.m. and 12 a.m. Economic experts are of the view that VAT increase can affect the private sector due to increased prices of goods, affecting product demand of the consumers. Explaining taxes in our next segment, Understanding Taxes in Sri Lanka, Professor J.G. Sri Ranjit of the University of Peradeniya is of the view that if the government can rectify anomalies with good governance, transparency and accountability, the government will be able to achieve growth.
With this budget, government has promised to increase salaries in the next year. So with those expenditures, I don't think that we will have a big impact on the economic growth. So this is another challenge. So without economic expansion, the government will not be able to collect tax revenues effectively. So with all these challenges, I think the government will have to function. So there will be some social unrest and maybe social pressure, and then the young crowd especially, they do not find job opportunities locally because of the drawback in the private sector, and the government also cannot provide further employment. So with that situation, the young labor force will leave the country. And although the private sector will find difficulty to manage, because in one hand, the tax rate is going up, so that the cost of production is going up. And then they cannot sometimes shift the tax burden to the customers fully. So there might be some backward shifting of tax burden and forward shifting of tax burden will happen. However, the consumers will also change the consumption patterns. Sometimes they may reduce consumption. Sometimes they will move to low price, low quality goods. So this kind of behavior will have a challenge private sector and production sector. So there will be a decrease in the effective demand for goods and services, which will also have a negative impact on the private sector as well. So therefore, I think with all these challenges, the government will have to go through the budget implementation. So I think in most of the discussions we know that it's a challenge. The limited options we have, but if we can dedicate, and also if the government promised people to rectify the anomalies, and then with good governance, democracy, and transparency, and accountability. Therefore, with all these qualitative aspects, the government should be able to make the trust and the credibility with the society. So with that promise, the government will be able to go for better outcomes with this kind of arrangement.
The Colombo Stock Exchange closed in green today, aided by spikes in industrial and financial stocks. The all-share price index climbed 0.75% to close end of week at 10,793.84 points, gaining for a third straight session. The index logged the second straight weekly gain, rising 0.69%. Expo Lanka Holdings and Melster Corp were the top gainers on the index, climbing 4.6% and 3.5% respectively. Trading volume on the ASPI rose to 35.1 million shares from 14.7 million shares in the previous session. The S&P SL20 meanwhile closed 1.22% higher to end at 3,102.99 points. Market turnover rose to 1.09 billion rupees from 430.8 million rupees, in the previous session. The banking sector was the top contributor to market turnover, while the transportation sector was the second highest contributor. Foreign investors were net sellers, offloading stocks worth 98.4 million rupees, while domestic investors were net buyers, purchasing shares worth 1 billion rupees. With that, let's take a quick look at how the rupee exchanged for the day today. That's all the news I have for you for now. I'm Jonathan Benedict. Have a blessed weekend ahead. Good night.